we all know about spices. We at least we know some spices, and all tribes in Nigeria have their own types of spices. But we're here to learn more about spices, not just the ones we know, the ones we don't know, and how it impacts our health. Yeah. So through this session, we'll be guided by Mrs. China Okori. She's an expert in this field. She's here to talk about spices and how it will impact our health. And she's also the CEO of Swift Grocers Limited, which is a go-to grocery brand here in Abuja. So, Mrs. China, I think I will leave the floor open for you to talk about it.
Good evening. Good evening, all. We're all welcome to today's program. I believe that it's going to be mind-blowing. It's going to open us up to a lot. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Well, I can hear you.
It's going to open us up to a lot. And at the end of the day, we really understand when God says that the herbs and the trees, they are actually for our health, well-being, our health. And understanding it actually keeps us ahead in our health and every other thing. My name is Wokore China, and like the anchor introduced me, I'm the CEO of Swift Grocers. Most importantly, I'm a scientist. Have a vast knowledge of our indigenous food, herbs, spices, and how it connects to our health. And I look forward to a very wonderful interactive session this evening. Thank you. Judith, back to you.
Okay, ma. Okay, sorry, my network is having a bit of issue. Okay, so ma, based on what we talked about, we're here to learn about some spice flavors, spices based generally, their healing properties, how it affects us as the health benefits. You know, sometimes you combine spices and it might not be right for you. You understand? So we're here to learn basically from you. You understand? Your knowledge about everything that you know about spices, however you can squeeze it into the little time that we have, that will be of great benefits to us.
I would start with the Are we there? Agatha, you're welcome. I can see you. Hello? Can we hear? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can, ma. We're hearing you.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to start with the very common spices that we overlook. And they are so important but because it's so common to us, we don't understand the potency of those spices. The first spice I'm going to talk about is the onions. It's one root or vegetable that I would say from the leaf through the crop itself to the roots, they all speak health. But over the years, we've looked at it as one of those things we put in our food, just to spice it up. Yeah, it makes a very wonderful spice. The onions is a very good tenderizer. Like you want to soften something, like you're boiling beans. Most people don't know that if you put onions in your beans when you're boiling it, it helps the beans to cook faster. I know some of us will be hearing it for the first time. The same thing it does to meat. But we know that they tell you when you want to boil meat, you put onions, you put pepper, you put garlic, you put ginger. But we don't really know the place of the onions in that meat that we're putting it. It actually serves as a tenderizer when you're steaming meat and other food. But most importantly, you notice that when you rub onions on your hand, just like garlic, the smell stays, okay? Why does it stay? Just like every other spice, it has oils. It has what we call polyphenols. And those things, the oils go a long way to boost our health, we have what we call the natural killer cells. The natural killer cells, sorry, hope I'm not taking us too far. When they tell you that this food helps in inflammation, what are they telling you? It helps to, stop the body from, to cushion the effect of inflammation. Like it's like when there's hot water, you now kind of pour cold water to like level it. So that these foods that help with inflammation, they are the antioxidants. So they help us a whole lot to take care of a whole lot of sicknesses, because most sicknesses come from, first of all, the body will be inflamed. Then the body will start sending negative vibes. And then you start having the effect of the sickness. So something like onions, by the time you take it, at the moment, it's in season. It's one of the vegetables that is easily affordable right now, unlike maybe December time where it was very, very expensive, and early January. Right now is in season, and I would advise us to cash in on it. I know most of us don't know that you can boil onions. Just boil it inside water and drink the water. You can do that. It's very healthy. But we are so used to putting it in our food to spice off our food, which is excellently also good. But it is one spice that is very common and highly potent. Outside the onions, I'm also going to talk about sometimes people they put a little onions. Okay. And they put it, maybe they're like, because you have to put onions, they put small. No, from this day, I would advise us, be deliberate and intentional when you are using onions to cook. Understand that it actually plays a major role in the food you're cooking. It does not only sweeten, it doesn't only add taste, it's also an immune booster. It keeps the sickness away. I would also want to touch on, the role of onions in maybe bites. Some people say, oh, I can't stand the smell of onions. Please, if you eat onion, just like garlic, the oil registers in your bloodstream. And I tell you one thing, God is so awesome. You will not be able to taste it. To smell it. As long as you're eating enough of onions and enough of garlic, you can't smell when somebody takes onions or garlic. It's when you're not taking enough of it, that's when you are put off by the smell. But the smell comes from the oil, just like, all these oils that they import and use to make perfumes. The place of onions cannot be exaggerated when it comes to cuisine and health. Then from the onions, I will move to garlic. I know most times when they call garlic, some people say, oh, it costs me flatulence. That is, it's bloating. It costs me this. It costs me that. I can't stand the smell. Please, just like the brother onions, the two bulb, they are very, very strong medicine that God has put as food to us. And the moment we begin to understand their place and start using them as they should be used, I bet you have not so much to do with doctors, not so much to do with the hospital. I will testify that over 20-something years, being married, I can't remember going to hospital for one sickness outside giving birth. Same with all my children and my husband. And what do I attest it to? First and foremost, to God. Secondly, to our indigenous food and spices. Spices, most importantly, the herbs that we use as spices. Garlic, as little as it is very, very potent. I don't want to use scientific, as a scientist, I don't want to use words that will blow people's minds. I really want to come to our, the way we will understand it. So that when we begin to, because I don't want this to stay with us, I actually want us to go ahead and spread this good news. Because most times when people meet me, some people wait for me, oh, I traveled, they're waiting for me to come back. What they're waiting for me to come back to tell them is what ordinarily we all should know. We took in civilization and then dropped our culture. And we're still suffering from that culture bias. But Indians, Chinese, Japanese, they held onto their culture, even as they took in civilization. And what is happening now? The West, they're going back to them to get healing for all the lies we've been sold to, that's been sold to us over the years, over what should be on our table and what should be on our kitchen counter. But now the West, they're beginning to realize it. They're going back to Japan, they're going back to China, they're going back to India to get knowledge from them on what keeps them healthy. But until we Africans know that we have much more than all these people, then we'll begin to sell our own, spices too. Right now, we're importing a lot of spices from different parts of the world, but these are things that we can grow within our own nation. The place of garlic, as I said earlier on, cannot be exaggerated. We can't talk about it enough. Most times people ask me, I said, number one immune booster, apple, garlic, ginger. Just as you heard me say it. Apple, garlic, and ginger. You blend it and drink it. For children, you sieve it and give them to drink. If you do this fortnightly, I bet you'll be amazed at how much far away you'll be from all these diseases. Be it flu, be it different kinds of infection. These spices, they go a long way. As I mentioned, garlic, you heard me mention ginger. Good. The place of ginger. They talk about ginger, they talk about ginseng. Most times people go looking for ginseng, but can we deal with the ginger that we know? Ginseng is also in the market, but ginger is most affordable and everywhere for us to see. So when you are dealing with ginger, you should understand that at least that is one anti-inflammatory substance that we should be knowledgeable of. For pains, ginger is so effective for pains and for inflammation that I remember traveling to Port Harcourt because I normally have a herb pot I boil every morning. I take the tea in the morning and take it in the evening. So as I traveled, for 2 days, I didn't take the tea. By the third day, to get out of bed, it was like, I don't know if you've ever carried a log of wood. I was so stiff and in pains to get out of bed. I was like, what exactly is happening? Nobody was my brain that reset to say, you've not had your tea. Because it sets you up for a good day. I quickly went, put my tea together and boiled it because I travel with them. I travel with the herbs. If I can forget my makeup bag and everything, but I can't forget my herbs. They're so important to me. So I quickly went to the kitchen. I boiled them, put enough ginger. Men and brethren, you will not believe me that within 15 minutes, I came up and about again. That is how much ginger can go in lightening your blood. That's why most times they say if you take ginger, you don't need to take aspirin because it makes the blood flow better. Okay? And sometimes they also tell you, if you're about to go for a surgery, they will tell you don't take ginger because it really does lighten your blood. That is the place of ginger. If I finish, if you have any question to ask me, I'm open to the questions. But I'll cover as many spices as I can this evening, hoping that in subsequent editions, we'll cover more spices because the spices are endless. They are herbs. Then we use them as spices. Then you now go to the place of cloves. That is another one. When you talk about cloves, in the north, they call it kanamperi. So I believe we understand what I mean. It's actually, they are brownish, smallish, and that. So the cloves, they use it to make kunu. They use it to make tea. They use it to make, even they put a little of it in suya spice. It's everywhere. And right now, people are beginning to understand the potency of cloves in keeping us healthy. At the moment, this price of cloves have gone so high that you'll be wondering what changed. I think knowledge is what changed. People now know that cloves is actually good for them, just like the ginger. So cloves right now, it's very good. It's brownish in color. If you go to the market to look for it, it's either you ask for cloves or you ask for kanamperi. You can use it to boil your tea. You can use it to boil zobo to drink, you know. You can use cloves. I'm trying to remember. You can use it to put in your pepper soup spice. Just a little. It has a very strong taste and aroma. So in whatever you're using it for, you just use a little. Sometimes they will say 4 cloves, 5 seeds, can do you in a day if you have a crusher. If you don't have a crusher and you have to blend your cloves, make sure you keep it in an airtight container because of the oil, it can easily lose its flavor. And then when you want to take it, you don't use the front of the spoon because you just need as little as possible. You use the back of your spoon to just take a bit, just a pinch of it. If it's just for one person, unless you're boiling tea for many people. You can boil tea of cloves, ginger, onions, and other herbs. And you're good to go. Most times when I see them parading Arabian tea, different kinds of names I hear them say. I look at it and I'm like, who do us? Who do us as Africans? Why must we pride in other people's culture? Why not ours? For ours, we look at it like local. But to those people, theirs is local. Theirs is local. And they pride in their local tea and herbs. And then we go and import it, and it's a show of affluence that you imported their own instead of doing your own. Okay, fine. One of the tea, that tea that I said I made when I traveled to Port Harcourt, I made that tea, and then my husband and I went to see one of his friends. So I shared the tea with them because I carried it in my bottle. So they were like, madam, this thing you're just drinking by yourself. I said, oh yeah, I gave my husband. The friend said, why not him? I also gave him some. I always take it with maybe a spoon or teaspoon of lemon juice. So the friend drank it. After he drank it, he said, is this thing not what they give to us? He mentioned one lounge like that and called the name they called it. See, me, I don't know how to do all this DIFC thing anyway. So when he called it, he said, madam, it's tasting like that thing exactly. I just knew he only registered with one of the blends of the spices inside the tea. So I laughed. He said, now, wow, so now they drink this one, they remain young. Yes, most of the herbs and the spices, they rejuvenate. Why? Because they take care of the inflammation in the body. They treat inflammation like no other. There's no medication in the world that can treat inflammation like our spices and our herbs. So that is why I believe that this discussion is very important, that we start selling our own and we start patronizing our local, cuisine. It's actually one of the best. Our local cuisine. By the time you put all the spices together inside a particular food, you'll be amazed at what you get. And we'll be taking it. It's like sometimes you're taking pepper soup or this white soup. White soup is, a mixture of spices with either one kind of protein or the other. That's exactly what white soup is. And then people take it and they enjoy it so much. What they really enjoy, it's the spices put together. Then, another one that we take for granted is our pepper. They've called it different kinds of names. Our pepper is one thing that we have going for us that we don't really know. If you stay on our cultural food, I don't think we have any business with diabetes, hypertension, and the likes. Because the ginger and the pepper, what they help you to achieve in your body, if you understand this, I bet you'll be chewing pepper by yourself. As red as the pepper is, the redness, what gives the pepper its color, has what it does in the body. The spiciness also has what it does in the body. All targeted towards inflammation. At the same time, they also help to correct, the heart. For those of us that have one heart issue or the other, the pepper does well with the hearts. Most times when you open the pepper, especially the tatashi, you will see it's compartmentalized like the heart. That will tell you that God is actually, he's the humorous God. And if we can, look at nature and begin to liken nature to our body, then we'll start looking at things that work. There was this post I looked at one time. There were different kinds of fruits and food things, how they help to treat different kinds of the different parts of the body. They showed the avocado for the uterus, the way the baby stays in the uterus. That was really, really, educating. I looked at it and it was amazing. I really read through it and it was impressive. So those are things I believe as Africans, we need to settle down because we just have to help ourselves. We don't have the what's the name? The hospitals, the desired hospitals to treat the Western sicknesses. We don't. We don't have the machines. But you know what? Prevention is better than cure. Doing the right thing. We don't have all those things, but you know what we have? We have what God has put within our environment, within us, in our culture to help us. And that is why these spice and herbs and our general food, we can't afford to overlook because at the end of the day, you are what you eat and drink too. So I had talked about the ginger, I had talked about the garlic, I have talked about the onions, I have talked about the cloves, and I've talked about pepper. Gradually, we'll discuss this till I start mentioning the ones that you ask. What is she talking about? What does it look like? But eventually we'll send out pictures and literature on those things on the platform so that you can read it up and understand it better, because I believe in you being empowered to function. You must not depend on anybody for your health. You depend on yourself. You get the information you need. Do the necessary researches. Don't take people just lying who can sing and then begin to act. No. I could say, oh, garlic, apple, ginger. In your family, I know some families, they react to garlic badly. So you need to find out what works for you. I believe I'm making sense. Hello?
Yes. Yes, ma'am, we're following and we're learning a lot.
Yeah. You need to find out what works for you. I could say, oh, take cloves. Maybe in your family, you react to clove. So as much as I'm saying it, I know there are exceptions to the rule. In the hospital, we take note of all of that this person is allergic to this. So you identify what causes you allergy and you skip it. But that is not to say it's not good. Just like some people can't stand peanuts. It causes them terrible allergy. Does it make peanuts bad? No. But you find out what works for you. So from the pepper, when I mentioned pepper, I meant the spicy one to the shombo, to the tatashi, so that we don't go breaking. All of them function almost the same way. Okay? Then we now to another spice that is also very common with us, and that is the scent leaf. Scent leaf is as old as the Nigerian culture. Growing up, my mom used to help. That's why when this topic came up, I laughed because it's a history of, from generation to generation. I told somebody, I wrote on our school group chat, I said, I am a herbalist. So everybody started laughing and they were sending me messages, asking questions like, what do I do with this herb and everything? It comes from a generation of treating with herbs over the years, from my grandmother to my mother, and then I kind of picked a lot from them too. And as I advanced, some of those things that I overlooked as a child growing up, God kind of brought them back to my memory. Like, look at this. This is what Mom C used to use to treat this. And then we started doing it. And as we started doing it, even my children, as small as 5 years, 4 years, when they were that young, they knew what to take to help with different kinds of ailments. So coming to scent leaf, a lot of researches have gone on with the scent leaf. And I know more researches will also come out on how we can make it readily available for people to use, if where it is not, where they can't plant it. Scent leaf is one herb that even if you don't have any other herb in your compound, please get a pot of scent leaf. Is that serious? Most times we see it as what you put inside pepper soup, or we see it as what we put inside egusi soup, depending on what the person wants per time. But scent leaf is much more than all of that. Are you aware that if let's say sometimes you feel like a boil is coming out on any part of your body, especially the under the arm, what's the name? The armpit area. You could feel boil coming out under your armpits. At the point where it's just coming out, that you start feeling it. When it starts coming out, when you're, touching it, it can be exciting. But gradually it will grow, and then it becomes very, very painful. At that point where it's just coming out, please just get a leaf or two of scent leaf, squeeze it, get the juice in it, and place it under your armpits. The antimicrobial effects of what you just did will kill off that boil, and you will not see it again. On any part of your body you feel it, just use it. As early at the inception of that infection, just use it. And you'll be amazed at the effect of, that scent leaf that you just used. Same with abdominal pain. I tell people, I told somebody he said he felt he had food poisoning, and he went to the hospital because he kept stooling and vomiting. He went to the hospital and they treated him, and he came back home. He felt he was better, but he was still stooling, but not as much. He went to church and he collapsed in church. He lost his balance because he was dehydrated from all the infection. So he collapsed in church. And when he fell, he broke his jaw. He broke his jaw, and what happened? They had to stitch his jaw. So you can imagine what scent leaf would have solved became multiple problems, from food poisoning to frequent stooling and vomiting, from frequent stooling and vomiting to accidents in church. They had to rush him to the hospital because he was bleeding. They now had to stitch his jaw. It sounds very simple, something that just 5 leaves or 10 leaves of scent leaf would have solved. Ended up being a hospitalization case, and he was on infusion. He was in the hospital for like 4 or 5 days before they now discharged him. When he was telling me the tale, I looked at it and I was like, oh dear, what ignorance is causing us in our nation, in our continent. Just 5 to 10 leaves of scent leaf would have just solved that man's matter. And it will look like nothing happened. Okay, rewind to my son. He's in Bayes University. He came in, I don't know what we went for, I think it was Mother's Day celebration in my in-laws' place. He came back, they had so much to eat. When he came back, through the night, he couldn't sleep. The same food poisoning. I just told him, I'm like, you know what, go downstairs. That was around 2 a.m. I said, go downstairs, get some scent leaf, and eat. We got him some scent leaf around that 2 a.m. From rolling and growling and everything, that one stopped. He started stooling. By 7 a.m., he took another one. And he slept most of that day. Then he was okay. On Tuesday, he went back to school. Relate it to the person who spent almost a week treating food poisoning.
When you look at that, you'll be able to understand the place of our spice that we have misplaced. We have relegated to the background. But rather, our quick to go place is pharmacy, chemist. Get something, throw one tab into your mouth. But we fail to understand that for every tab you throw into your mouth, your body complains. That is why for every medication, they write contraindications. What are they telling you? They are also warning you of the minors of taking those tabs. But you know what? You can take those things, you can take what God has given us free without those contraindications. And it just happens naturally. So please, from this day forward, you don't have to complain that, oh, your stomach. Try it and understand what I mean. If you get the scent leaf, wash it properly. And when you wash it, you chew 5 to 10 leaves, depending. Why I say 5 to 10, because some are bold, some of the leaves are bold, while some are small. Chew it and watch. Your body, the system resets, as in is like an immediate thing. By the time your system resets, then in a short while, you will be fine. And before you know it, you're up and about. And you literally forget that you had any sickness or anything bothering you. That is how much scent leaf can go. From scent leaf, I now move to lavender. It's there. It's easily available. You can buy it. They are potted plants. And I advocate for most of these herbs, even if you're living in somebody's house, get your own pots. Put it around your home. Why? Because they have become medicine. They are no more just plants or food or, flour or whatever. They have become medicine. So pot your own. Don't wait for another person. Get your own and make it readily available. What is lavender going to do for you? It will send you to sleep. It's just one thing that can treat sleeplessness. You take it, the next thing, you're off to sleep. Then, outside this, I'm going to talk about the Adam pod. Some of us will ask, what is Adam pod? I don't know if you know, there's this thing they used to make pepper soup. Is blackish and is long. It's as long as a finger, but slimmer than a finger. Like, it's as long as your last finger, but slimmer than your last finger. I don't know if we know it. In Igbo, we call it Oda. I know other tribes have other names for it. During the COVID, for those of them in America, they realized that it's a lot, Negro pepper. They realized that the Negro pepper, it's a lot. It has a lot of amazing health benefits. Okay, the Yorubas call it eringe, and the Hausas call it kimba. So I believe with this, we'll be able to, have an idea of what we are talking about. We'll be able to have an idea of what we are talking about. In English, it's called Negro pepper. In Igbo, it's called Oda. In Hausa, it's called Kimba. And in Yoruba, it's called Erunje. One would ask, what is the benefit of,
this particular seed, it has a strong antimicrobial effect. And the good thing about it is that it does not fight only one, because when you talk about bacteria, we have what we call like some antibiotics can only treat one type of bacteria. You have gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. But some antibiotics we take, if what you're suffering from is gram-negative, some antibacterial, they can only treat gram-positive. And then you take it, it will look like the sickness did not go. Then we have what we call broad spectrum. Augmentin is a broad spectrum, whereby it treats both the gram-negative and the gram-positive. So you find out that this odor has both gram-positive and gram-negative effects, as in it is broad spectrum, just like the scent leaf. So it goes a long way to treat different sicknesses. And it also helps to take care of arthritis. I know we may not know. Most times when I'm boiling my tea, I try to make sure that there's odor in it. Why do I put the odor? Because it is known in my own family that we have a challenge with arthritis. So I try to use the odor to help cushion the effects. Are these things that we can easily imbibe in our daily activities to help us? Very easy. Should we, have that, should we develop the habit of doing it? I would advise we do. Because when we do, most people have introduced these things too. They are highly appreciative. One of the members of my PTA, my children's school, met me. He said, "Madam, that thing you told me about that apple garlic ginger, have been doing it. And each day I feel weak. I just take it and I wake up the next morning like I'm ready to take up the world." That is the kind of testimony that makes my day. That somebody, he said, "Madam, from that time till now, my children, no sickness at all," just like you said it. And I challenge all of us listening today, just try this. Take some of these herbs, don't just use them like one of those things we put when we are cooking, like our mother taught us to put this or to put that. Be intentional about using them. Take it, like I am using this because I always tell people we are what we eat. We are what we eat. It's very, very important. If we take these things personal and we begin to do them, gradually, you begin to see the results. And when you start seeing the results, it will be a case of, wow, all this time I have been ignorant and I have been doing the wrong thing. I wouldn't stop anybody from going to the hospital if you're sick. But before you get sick and before it gets out of hand, can we do these things? Because God has put them on our table. He has made it easy for us. But it's just that we are yet to understand the efficacy of, doing them and doing them right. The moment we start doing them and doing them right, heaven knows, you will be like, you will be one of the disciples, because it will be a gospel. It will be a gospel of African spices, spreading the good news of African spices. And as we do that, I believe that God will help us achieve more, reach more people, and at the end of the day, we'll have more healthy people around us. Our target in Sweet Grocers is to do the much we can to make sure we put the right food on people's table so that they can be healthy. I'm going to stop here for today to take questions from our listeners. And I hope I was well understood while I spoke. Thank you. I return back to you, our moderator.
Yes. Okay, ma. Thank you very much. We really enjoyed this session. It was very enlightening. I know that a lot of us learned a lot. Well, I can speak for myself. I learned a whole lot from what you're saying. I'll break it down into like 3 points, basically what I learned. I learned about the uses of spices, the varying uses of spices. You talked about, for instance, we started with the onion, how most people just use it for just cooking their food and flavoring their food. But you can boil it and drink the water and it will be medicinal as well. And I didn't know that. And the same thing with a lot of spices that we have. They have so many uses. But we just do things in one way and we're okay with it. Another point that I learned is using food as medicine. You talked about instead of having to go to the hospital or the pharmacy and pop a pill, you know, we could just take, like you gave the example of your son when he had the food poisoning and all that. What a few leaves, 5 to 10 leaves would have solved, is what if you didn't know, if you didn't have this knowledge, that's what you would have gone to the pharmacy to get flagell or something else for. Then and I don't know if you remember, I told you then that my mom had cancer as well, because she's also into this whole issue of using spices as herb, as medicine and all that my mom, she used some herbs, some spices to treat herself, to cure herself of cancer, natural foods basically, spices like cinnamon, ginger, and even carrot juice as well. So that was a very good point there. Then the third thing I learned as well was how we should embrace our local spices more. What really hit home was when you said the Chinese, the Arabs, and all these other people, they don't abandon their culture, they embrace it. We are here in Nigeria drinking Arabian tea and Chinese tea and all that, but these are their own local herbs and spices, and we should develop ours as well so that it can compete basically on the global stage as well. So we're very grateful and thankful for the knowledge that we've gained here now. So at this point, I would like to call on other participants if they have any questions or contributions. You understand, a lot of people, we grow up with our parents or our grandparents using herbs and spices too as medicine or in other forms. That practice is definitely lost in this generation, but I know people have experiences that they can share as well, or you could ask a question. But before we go ahead to make our contributions, I want to reiterate what Mrs. China said. This session is just the inaugural session. There will be many more like this where we'll be talking about not just spices, food in general, how we can use them in various forms, how we can use them as medicine for, basic general in-depth knowledge of food. So I just want us to bear that in mind. So if we have any questions or contributions, we can raise up our hands, please. Anybody? Okay, maybe I'll go first. I actually have a question for Mrs. China, because when she was talking about us embracing our local spices and using it in various forms. So I wanted to her to, if she can give us like ways that we can, further embrace, yes, we're learning, further embrace our local spices and how we can, I don't know how would I put it, how we can get it, make it like a trend, you understand? Like for instance, maybe spices like our local Iru and like she talked about the scent leaf. These are common things, but how can we, encourage more usage of it?
Okay. Iru, I left Iru, Dadawa, Ubi, and their likes. I left them for another day. But here you are pulling them forward. Okay. Most of these spices, just like I said, the ones I mentioned are the ones we use regularly. So I said from the known, regular known, to the unknown. Do you understand? And to the unregular unknown. There's regular unknown and there's unregular unknown. What I mean by regular unknown is that you know them, you see them, but you don't know what they're used for. Okay? And then you have the unregular unknown. Those ones, you don't even have an idea that they exist, but they're there for your healing. So that is why I want us to move gradually so that it won't come like, boss. No, I want us to gradually move. As we move, then we'll be getting there. Let me say something about what happened in Swift Grocer some time ago. A lady came in, I think she's used to getting Benny, what do they call that thing? Benny something. Benny, there's some
Many
Benny,
stock cubes, I think.
Benny stock something.
Benny
So
chicken. It's Benny
Benny,
chicken. It's one of my favorites.
Benny crayfish. So, and you find out that many people don't stock that Benny crayfish. So she's used to getting it from Sweet Grocer. So she came that day, she just walked straight to the counter where she gets it. And all she saw was Benny chicken. She said, no, I want Benny crayfish. And I told her, I said, it's not available. Why don't I help you get some other things that could work? She said, no, that's the only thing my mom uses to cook. Like, really? She said, yes. This is now I'm dealing with her mother's kitchen, and like my sister would say that our neurological pathway is formed in a particular way, and the moment it's formed, it takes a lot to like change that neurological pathway. So for her in cooking, her neurological pathway is formed in such a way that it's only that Benny crayfish that makes her food taste good. So I tried to tell her, do you know this? I tried to introduce her to Iru. I tried to introduce her to Bonga. Bonga is a ground fish that we use in place of Maggi. Especially, I tell people that are diabetic, hypertensive, as much as you're taking your medication, be very intentional about what enters your mouth. Glutamate, monosodium glutamate, which is the base of most seasonings, I would say. Let me not use all. For most seasonings, is not a go-to seasoning for anybody treating hypertension, what's the name, and diabetes, or high cholesterol level. Why am I saying this? Because they don't help in the healing of all those diseases. Rather, they escalate it. You got there first by that, the complications of the monosodium glutamate and aspartame. So what are we saying here? Our ancestors had a way of making their food taste good, without all those things. There is what we call the umami taste. Please, you can Google it, UMAMI. I think next time we should have a PowerPoint a slide so that we can always flash our some of these things. Okay, the umami taste is a Japanese project that came from cooking tomato, onions, bell peppers. Okay? Like grinding them and boiling them together to dryness and then blending it and using it to cook. By the time you taste it, that is what they use, is that taste that they use to formulate seasoning, Maggi, no, all those things. That is what they call the umami taste. So, but why did they make it? They made it so that for the poor nations, you find out that if you go to the West, most of them don't use all these things we use. They cook their food bland. And the food comes out nice too. You get the real taste of the food, even when most of them are not like as organic food. So most times we are used to, and just like a diabetic patient who has stopped eating anything sweet,
did you give that person anything with a little bit of sweetness, it will like, oh, it's sweet. That's how it will appear to the person that, this thing is too. Why? Because you train your taste buds to what they should take and what they should take. So where am I driving at here? How you can transcend from moving from all these cues and all of that to the real thing which our ancestors used is by promoting things like the Iru. I use Obey, I use Iru. I literally use them for almost everything that I cook. If I'm traveling out of the country like this, there's a particular bag that has all the smelly things. They'll say, wow, this smells Nigerian, Nigeria. I say, yes. Proudly Nigerian. I don't mind the smell. All the fish, crayfish, Iru, Okpei, Ogiri, all of them that are inside there. I said, I would rather take what I know that is good for my health than what I don't know. Now, you find the dadawa, you can use dadawa, you have dadawa powder, not mixed with anything, purely dadawa powder. By the time you use it to make your sauce, and you put this bonga, this ground bonga fish or ground prawns into the same, you're going to get wonderful taste. That is how, as you do it with yourself, you also change, you also make other people know. You realize that when you put a lot of onions inside the food, it sweetens, it makes that food taste good. If you can agree with me, it gives that food another taste. Unlike when you just put a little, it makes the food taste exceptionally good. Then you now put the dadawa inside. And then if you're able to get this bonga or the prawns, the dry prawns, you put, some people will go like, oh, there's a particular taste that crayfish gives. So it's not in everything you can put crayfish. Are you getting what I mean? There are some food that if you put crayfish, it will just change the taste of that food completely. So I wouldn't say maybe some dishes you're making that would not tolerate the taste of crayfish. You will still get their taste if you use things like dried prawns or the ground bonga. You still get it, and then you put dadawa without the stock. And this is how you transcend from this to that. And remember, your taste buds can be trained to like the good thing. So it's all about training. Over time, you now get used to this good thing, and that is where you stay. Thank you. I hope I'm able to,
Yes.
answer your.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. I really appreciate. Please, do we have any more contribution or questions? The whole essence of this session is we want to make it as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions or contribution, you are welcome. Mrs. Kamsi Obi Ubaka, sorry, you unmuted before we continued. I don't know if you have a question or a contribution.
Yes, thank you so much. Not really. Well, I don't know if it's a question or a contribution, but I want to say that I am enjoying this so much that I wish she could just go on and never stop. Because with every word that comes out of her mouth, something happens to me, a new realization, something just happens to me, and I feel so good about it. Now, I want to talk about this garlic. I love garlic so much. I enjoy it. For my kids, my family says that I could eat a whole clove of garlic, as in for food, you know. I enjoy it. But the thing is, I work in an office environment, and every time I eat garlic and I come to work the next day, my boss doesn't talk. She feels it's a message, you know, that maybe she got me angry the day before, and I wanted to punish her by eating garlic. And I don't know what to do because it has made it difficult for me to keep up with my garlic routine. I love to eat garlic almost on a daily basis. So I end up swallowing it at night, hoping that by the morning that everything would have dissipated, the smell, but not the effect or the work it does in my body. I just want to know, swallowing garlic whole, a clove of it, is it as effective as chewing it? And what can I do so that the smell of garlic does not follow me around, you know, when I go to work and everything? Thank you.
Okay, coming to the garlic thing, you find out that I wouldn't. I most times I hear people swallow the whole clove or the bulb. The clove, if you swallow it, is as good as eating food without chewing. You get? If you can't chew, crush. Why do I say that? So that you can expose the digestive, there are organisms in your digestive tract that work on all of these things and make them available to your body. So you give your body greater work. Like I was explaining, okay, I think I was explaining to my husband the other day, we're talking about fried food. I said, each time you fry food to eat, you are punishing your body. As you know, it always tastes nice when you fry some things, right? But you're creating more work for your body by your system will have to like digest that fat. After digesting the fat and the oil, before it will start breaking down the carbohydrates, it's a lot of work on your system. So as much as possible, what do? You can boil, steam, stew, whatever, and then put the oil by the side and then you eat. It's a whole lot easier than having the oil soak inside the molecules and of the particular food you're going to eat. So I would advise, don't swallow garlic whole. Because when you do, it takes a longer time for your digestive system to crush it in your body and start using it. And if you're able to open up your undigested food, I use the word undigested food because most times what we ingest, they are undigested food. And that's why they still say that your excrement is as important as your food because it's a lot of undigested food. They are not waste per se, the way we look at it. So if you are able to look at your undigested food, you may see some of the garlic you swallowed, whole like that inside it. You'll be amazed, right? To hear that. So the issue of swallowing, I would say no. Chew your garlic or crush it and then take it. That is one. Another way is try to take it with some other thing instead of taking it all by itself. If you really don't want to offend people with it. And what I normally do for my children is I give them the garlic in the night, like the apple, garlic, ginger, especially if there is any sign of sickness. I give them the apple, garlic, ginger in the night. And by morning, if I give it to them, then I ask them to go and brush. Then after brushing, they use this thing. What's the name? They eat a little bit of alligator pepper. Do you understand? Just to help bring down the smell, and then they go. But I would like what this whole program is all about is for us to champion
our own, start our own good gospel of doing the right thing. Your boss who says she's being punished or something by you eating garlic, can you gradually sell the message of the potency of garlic to her health? You may be saving her of an unforeseen sickness looming around her by telling her that. You could start by telling her that, does she know if she takes apple, garlic, ginger, she keeps sickness away, that it works. You try it. After you've tried it, then you'll be confident enough to share that message with her. As in, there is nothing like flu around you. If the cold or anything comes, as it's showing face, is going immediately. It cannot last 2 days. It disappears. So when you start doing it and you tell her and she learns to do it, gradually she will get used to it. And if she starts taking the apple, garlic, ginger, like I told you, the oil registers in your body. So you cannot smell it. You can't perceive it. That's why most times when people talk about you smelling, maybe smelling of garlic, you can't perceive it because you have the oil in your system. Like if you sweat, the way it even works is that if you sweat, even your sweat, it comes out in your sweat too. So you will now start propagating the gospel of the apple, garlic, ginger. Start making them know how much it helps to boost their immunity and gets them ready for the day and keep sickness away from them. Gradually, you won't know, you will get all of them to start eating it. Sell the story of the potency of scent leaf to them. When you sell such stories, there's any sign of food poisoning, they take scent leaf, it works. I bet you any other thing you tell them, they will listen and they will do. You hear?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much, Ma. Anybody else that has a question or contribution? Nobody? Okay, I wanted to ask a follow-up question on what Ms. Kamsi said. Apart from spreading the gospel, like telling them, okay, fine, yes, I'm smelling garlic, but this is what it does. Do you know the benefits? Is there any natural, I don't know, I won't say antidote, or something that after you've taken the garlic, you know you are going to sweat, you know you are going to do all that, something that at least can reduce the effect? Because me too, I also like garlic as well. And just like she said, because of you're cautious of the fact that you're going to meet people, how do you reduce, the effect? Not so you're not conscious of yourself that, oh, am I smelling garlic, or will people run away from me and all that?
That was why I said that for my kids, what I do with them is, if I'm going to give them the apple, garlic, ginger in the morning before they go to school, because even sometimes their teachers complain too. My little girl, she's 8 going to 9. So imagine a teacher telling you, what's the sheep, you're smelling. So of course, you wouldn't want that for a child, okay? So what I normally do for her is, after she has taken it, I'll tell her to go brush. And when she's done brushing, I said I give her 2 or 3 alligator pepper to chew. And it helps to manage the situation. Did that make any sense? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. So I don't know if there's anybody with any more contribution or questions.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah, Madam Oda.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the
Yes, I hear it's I hear people, because I don't know. I know I take it when maybe after birth it's very good, to wash your system and everything, but I don't really know. People take out the seeds of Uda. Is that the right thing to do?
Okay. Now, for the benefits of the modern day pepper soup spice that is being prepared, we're a generation of sweet tooths, right? So if the seed of Uda, is bitter. So most times, if they want to grind the pepper soup spice, the regular one that is being sold, if you put the seed, it's going to make it bitter. And most people, they don't like that bitter taste. That's why they remove the seed. The seed on its own is also sold because it's highly medicinal. So I would advise, because you wouldn't want to be taking pepper soup that is bitter. I try to be practical in what I do, right? I'm that person that can blend bitter leaf and drink. My son will say, Mommy, you that can drink aloe vera, there's nothing you cannot drink. So but not everybody is like me. So I try to like balance it so that you don't, as much as we want people to embrace our, indigenous spices, we don't want to drive them. The Oda seed is very potent and it's very healthy. It's very good, especially for the one who just gave birth. So you find out that for the cleaning of the uterine wall, they kind of the seed is highly important. But for somebody who is just taking Uda for its efficacy and potency, you can avoid the seed. Does that make sense?
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
If you want the seed itself, you can just make it, and it's like, I want to take bitter leaf juice. I tell my brain, you are about to take something, and because I'm that person, as much as I'm pursuing our indigenous cuisine, I am that person. I don't joke with my chocolate. So are you getting me? I take my chocolate and I take you very well. So I try to. So as much as you do all of that, so that when you want to use this, for whatever reason you want to use the seed, you are ready for the taste that you're going to get. And that is not frequent. Unlike the pepper soup spice that you always use to cook one thing or the other. I hope I make sense.
Yes, you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you very much. Ma. Hello. Okay. Thank you very much, Ma. Please, do we have any more questions, contributions?
Yes, please.
I don't know. Somebody is raising up their hand, but there's no name. It's a number. I don't know. Okay.
Okay. What's it? 837.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I
Can
think
you
maybe the person. Oh, can barely hear the person.
Kani?
Okay.
You're not muted, but you're trying to speak.
Okay. We have another. Somebody wants to ask a question. Mrs. Okas, you can go ahead and ask your question. Unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening.
Please, I want to ask, can garlic help to solve vaginal infection like candida and candida and what was this? Forgotten the name. But mainly candida. Can garlic help in solving that?
Okay. For that question, I will refer you to Gorontula. Garlic can help, but for faster healing and treatment, I would refer you to Gorontula. Have you heard of Gorontula before? Mrs. Soka.
Yes, ma. Yes, ma, I have.
Okay, I would refer you to Gorontula, 2 or 3 of them in a day, consistently for like 5 days, and then watch what happens.
Okay,
It
ma. Thank you so much.
that it will treat it from inside. But while you're treating it from inside, I would also say that you can, like Mycotin, any of the fluconazole cream, you can use, Ali, while you take Gorontula to clean from inside.
Okay, ma. Thank you, ma.
Well
All
done.
right, that's very. I didn't know that Gorontula. We know when people hear Gorontula,
Gorontula resets.
thank you very
Like,
much.
resets a lot in the reproduction.
Wow, wow. Thank you very, very much, ma'am. See, this knowledge that we're getting for free. Most people, when they think of Gorontula, they think of other uses, but we didn't. I personally, I didn't know that you could use it to treat infections. So that's another knowledge for me as well. So please, do we have any more questions or suggest or contributions? Anybody? Okay. If we have no more contributions or questions, I think we could round up for this session. Like we said, there's going to be many more because when you're dealing with food and its benefits to what it can do with the body, the possibilities are endless. So well, it's a continuous thing, and we're going to be having various sessions, and at each time we'll put out invitations so people can always join and learn. I want to also talk about Mrs. Chin. I know I said she's the CEO of Swift Grocers. For those in Abuja here, Swift Grocers is a one-stop shop for all your grocery needs. A lot of the herbs and spices that she talked about can be gotten at her shop as well. So feel free to stop by. We can, if you are interested, we can share the link, the direction, which is not just a physical location. They also have an online shop, so things can be delivered to you as well. And this session that we just had has been recorded as well. So if you want the recording, that can also be sent to you as well. You can go through it again and share it with your friends and invite them for subsequent sessions. So at this point, I would like to ask Mrs. China if she has any final contribution to add before we bring the session to a close.
Thank you very much for all that took time to attend and to listen and to get, the for today. I that God had given, especially some things that He has personally opened up to me, which we'll be sharing as days go by. That He too will, visit you as you listen to this and also explain things better, because there is not so much that I can explain. More things through experience. So when you start having your personal experience, it will be easier. Like some of the teachers of the Bible will say, the things I began to do and to teach. It's easier to teach when you begin to do. That's why it looks like I can stay for like 10 hours talking about food endlessly. Why? Because over the years, I have done so much on it, and I've done a lot of, somebody said that he's my guinea pig. I think I'm my own guinea pig, and my children are too. So they can testify to a lot of things, There are things I have done that have kept me in bed. I must be sincere with you. There are some experiments I've done that have knocked me out, kept me in bed for days. Like, I'm like, oh, you don't go here, telling you that some things are good, but they can be poisonous. So those ones, as time goes by, I will also expose us to all of them. But all in all, please do your best to put what we have learned today to use. And as you put it to use, don't forget the apple. If you don't go with anything, please don't forget the apple garlic ginger. For you, for the children, for your loved ones, just to keep just to keep yourself abreast of sick, any kind of ailment before it happens, and then the scent leave in case of any kind of food poisoning. I deeply appreciate each and every one of us for turning up. I know some people will be waiting maybe for me to give them a shout out before they come in and things like that. But thank you for recording it. I'm very grateful to you, Dan, that you actually took it upon you to stream this live on DDM YouTube channel, and people can always go back to it. Thank you, and God bless you. Remain blessed. Thank you. Thank you, Judith.
Thank you. Yes,
for being there, putting this together. This is your baby. I'm just supporting. So I'm grateful. I also thank my entire family. I thank my husband, children for also being there and being part of the whole experiment that had worked. God bless each and every one of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. I know that we've all learned a lot, and in subsequent sessions, we're going to learn much more. And by then, we would have grown into a larger community. We really appreciate your contribution so far. I want to also say that if you are interested in getting the recordings, please leave your details on the chat so that we can get to you. And if you're interested in joining the community, because like we said, it's not a one-off thing. It's something that is going to be continuous, that is going to metamorphose into a whole community. This whole issue of food with all the sicknesses and cancers out there. So we need to learn as much as possible to be able to help ourselves. So thank you very much to everyone that attended, and we hope to see you in future sessions. Thank you very much.
God bless us all. Thank you.